podcast. So I think we might be live. Are we live? Is the question. Are we real? Is anybody real? I mean, it says that we're doing the thing. Yeah, apparently we're live. Okay. Hello, everybody. Wait, next streaming selfie. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, there we are. We actually are live. Wow, what a first great minute of live content this was. Welcome, everybody, to the Autosave podcast. My name is Michael from City Retro, and I'm joined from the ambassador from Bhutan, Joey. Welcome, Joey, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Joey, we recently just sat through 4 hours of the Game Awards, where they announced quite a lot of games, went through some of the Game of the Years as well, and we're going to talk about our thoughts. So that's really what we're doing. No script, no preparation. We're kind of just, doing it on the fly. So
As usual, then.
But yeah, did you want to sort of kick off and give your thoughts on, or anything that stood out for you, I guess, through the Game Awards?
A couple of things stood out for me. The announcement of Clovers, the studio by former Clover employees, who made some of my favorite games, including Okami, which they're doing a sequel to. Which they technically did have a sequel on the DS, Okami Den, but that felt like more of a spin-off for the time. So very excited about that. The Ninja Gaiden Ragebound announcement, also very exciting. Looks very good.
Yeah, and that was one of the first ones as well, right? Like that.
That was the first one during technically the pre-show, which I guess makes the Game Awards only 3.5 hours, because half hour of it was the pre-show.
Look, pre-show show, it's pretty much
it's
same
just,
thing.
It's a very odd delineation, but they had it. So the Shadow Labyrinth game that has the Pac-Man sidekick.
Yeah.
Very exciting on that one. I don't know if it's in the Pac-Man universe or adjacent to it. That could be interesting, and it looks like a Metroidvania, which is a genre I enjoy. Although we could go into what a Metroidvania actually is another time.
Yeah, let's save that for another day.
Yeah, Rematch, that football game from the guys who made Sifu. That looked pretty good.
Not what I was expecting from when they were like, from the guys who made Sifu. I was like, all right, maybe another like action game or something like that. And then it was like football, and I was like, that's cool. I'll take an arcade football game.
Every time I think of martial arts, I think of football.
Absolutely. Zinedine Zidane famously headbutted Maserati in the World Cup final, so it's basically the same thing.
I mean, that basically birthed internet memes, as I recall.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was even on Family Guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, lots of games, right?
It's The Last of Two. I mean, I'd heard they were working on a new project. I didn't know they were actually making a sequel to the first Solasta. I really enjoyed that first game, and especially the expansions. So I'm looking forward to eventually playing that. Yeah.
And there's lots of really, really cool like big games as well that we didn't get to see like too much content for. Obviously, in this format where there's so much to announce, they only have kind of like announcement trailers. But things like The Witcher 4, Borderlands 4, lots of 4s, it would seem. Those are some really, really cool ones coming. Mafia: The Old Country, being Italian, definitely looking forward to that one as well.
Yes, hopefully they really keep the racism intact.
I hope so too. Yeah, so lots of games.
Italians will know what we're talking about.
Indeed. Lots of games coming.
Well, Virtua Fighter 4. Holy crap! I mean, it wasn't much to show, but
it exists.
That was a big announcement. Yeah, it will exist.
Yep, and that's more than enough for us. Slay the Spire 2. They showed a little bit of footage of that. Looks very like similar to the first one, but obviously with new cards, a couple of new characters, it would seem. new enemies, new animations, all the rest of it. So, if you enjoy Slay the Spire, which, to be honest, I was actually playing it this morning because I just wanted something chill to take my mind off.
Day-to-day life?
Yeah, life, right? And then I was like, I wonder when they're going to show the 2. And then, there we go. Dave the Diver's getting a DLC.
Yeah, I mean, go back on the Slay the Spire for a moment. To me, that actually looks more like a mod than an actual sequel. Like, it didn't really look like... I mean, I know they put effort into it, but I couldn't tell the difference between that and the first game.
I think also because the characters they did show were, I think 3 of them were the same from the first game. So they've got the Ironclad, the green one.
I mean, just like in the arts and the animations, like it's still got that kind of, we're doing very minimalist approach to things. It didn't really seem like a step up from the original game, but I mean, for fans of the original game, I imagine that's probably not too big a deal.
I think it depends, right? Because you look at something like Hades 2 that has been in early access for quite some time, and obviously the art style and stuff is very close to Hades. That made some improvements in that game for sure, but in terms of content, story, and the way that game flows, it's quite different. But in terms of like gameplay, there's a few new things, but ultimately it's more of the same, right? And I think Slay the Spire is kind of the same. It's more of the same, but hopefully there is new additions that aren't in the first game that makes it feel a little bit different every time you play. Because especially for the roguelike genre, you really want to kind of, in my opinion, diversify yourself from the first game to the second, because they're infinitely repeatable anyway in the first game. If you don't change the formula at least a little bit, then it's just going to feel like playing the same game over and over again, right? And I think that's why it's hard sometimes to do sequels to titles like this.
That's a fair point, but I would say, if you look at Shiren the Wanderer, which is like an actual roguelike game, and those games are basically the same games over many times, but with a few different actual features here and there, but they have very different experiences when you play them, as opposed to, at least with my experience with Slay the Spire, where, as you say, it felt like the same game every time I played it. I didn't really feel like the modifiers didn't really start getting interesting until the very late game.
Yeah. Actually, on... Wait, I lost my point. Never mind. I'm sure it was good. Anyway, Slay the Spire, definitely, it's coming next year. We'll see more about it, I guess, moving forward. I think one we were both excited on, and we were having a bit of a chat on WhatsApp during the game show awards game show, sorry. And the first one, like Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. So this is made by the same developers that did Streets of Rage 4, right? .emu, I think it is.
Well, no, it's not exactly. It's the guys who made Blasphemous.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. .emu's involved, but based on the art style and the way the game looks, that to me looked like the Blasphemous team were taking the lead on development there.
Either way, I think combat-wise, like even the art style, the whole thematical approach to it looked really, really promising. So definitely looking forward to seeing more from that and playing it when it comes out.
Agreed. The Ninja Gaiden series is very near and dear to me, although more the Inadaki 3D ones. I'm very curious because it looks like you're not playing as Ryu Hayabusa, so I'm wondering if you're playing like his son or something. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, more to unfold on that one. Then there was a game, Thick as Thieves, and this, I think we were talking before, and I said it kind of feels a little bit like Deathloop in some of its like approach, but you had a different take.
Yeah, to me it looked more like Thief and Dishonored. Not necessarily graphics wise, although the graphics look closer to Dishonored, just a bit higher def. Yeah, I mean the co-op thievery part is an interesting take, and Warren Spector is behind it in some capacity. So if he's involved in the creative direction on that game, I'm very curious to see what he does. Deus Ex is still one of my all-time favorite games, and hasn't really been a game like it. If he can catch us some of that, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean that franchise has kind of been left on a cliffhanger, right?
I'm not talking about the modern Deus Ex. I'm talking about the original.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, the modern ones are who does them? Was it Ubisoft?
I don't. I think it was Square Enix.
Oh, Square Enix, that's right, yes. Because they owned the that European studio or developer,
Yeah.
publisher. Yeah, and then they split off those guys to
And
own their own
classic
as well.
Square Enix either like make a like top 10 game or something that is complete arse. There's like there's no in between.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
But those reboot Deus Ex games were pretty good. I thought they're just not quite as ambitious as the original. And I'm looking forward if they can capture some of that feeling for those games, even the newer ones. Then I think that could be pretty good. And while I'm personally not a multiplayer person primarily, if it's like an easy way to get co-op in a game, that it's like not where it's you get kicked off a team because you're just not good enough kind of thing, then it might be worth it.
Yeah. One game to me that actually looked pretty cool was Midnight Murder Club. Just thought
that was an interesting one. Yeah.
looked interesting. I wish I had set it up. I will set it up so that we can show some of the trailers as we talk. Whilst we're talking in the background, I'll set that up. But yeah, that looks pretty interesting. We've already spoken about Rematch as well being pretty cool. The Witcher 4 was announced, and this one seemed quite different in the fact that you're not playing as Geralt, or it would seem from the trailer.
They announced that years ago that Geralt wouldn't be the protagonist of the fourth game. They never explicitly said who it would be. I was actually kind of surprised it was Ciri. If that's where they're going with this.
Yeah, isn't she really busy being an Apple assistant?
Bravo.
That's terrible.
No, it's spelled with a C, not an S. But yeah, it's like she's a great character in The Witcher 3 and in the books as well. So I'm very curious to see if she is the protagonist, where they take her character, because one of the endings in Witcher 3 is that she becomes a Witcher. Yeah, if that's where they're going, I'm very curious to see where they take it.
Holy crap, I just messed something up. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I'm just getting some of the trailers up. Apologies, Joey, you can't see what I am getting up. How's the best way to do this, actually? Okay, you know what? That'll do. So I think I'll just start playing and I'm going to turn the audio off on the trailers, but just sort of playing the Witcher 4 one in the background. So this was a pretty cool introduction, I think. We'll see where the
from a devilishly curious
series actually
child
goes from here.
into a remarkably young
I'm very, very low, but yeah, I think the action looked pretty good. Again, it was no gameplay, it was just cinematics. So we really don't know how it's going to be any different from The Witcher 3, I suppose.
Easy to sell with cinematics. I mean, they did it with all the games. That's not new to this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see when... Did that have a release date? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it just said next year, right? Or did it not say any...
I don't remember a year on it.
Yeah, okay.
There was rumors that it might be next year, but I honestly don't believe that, considering all the work they've been doing on Cyberpunk. But
Yeah.
I think they have multiple studios now, so it's not necessarily one team working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it looks pretty decent.
I mean, 3D cutscene is really hard to fail.
That's fair. Yeah, Witcher 4 coming, and then there was Elden Ring Night Rain. So I actually haven't played Elden Ring, but you have. So is this
Indeed.
an expansion, a sequel? What is this?
It's a standalone co-op game. Looks like it'll be like nothing connected to the original game, so you can go in fresh.
I mean, I'd still like to play the original one. I mean, I tell a lie, I have booted it up. That was... I think I played like 45
It's halfway
minutes.
there then, yeah.
I played 45 minutes and I was like, alright, I do need to play this, but I've just been looking for more casual games recently in my spare time rather than being able to sit down and play. Although, saying that, I just started Persona 5, so... you
Which
know.
technically is not casual and casual at the same time, because you play day at a time in that game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Anyway, so standalone co-op adventure, which could be really, really cool. You might be able to teach me how to be good at Souls
I'm not an
games.
expert, but I know the ins and outs for the most part.
Well, it's just I've never really. I've always been meaning to play like a From Software game, and I just haven't. Which I know as someone who sells games, probably shouldn't say that, but whatever.
You don't need to play all the games you sell. I mean, it's kind of impossible too.
I mean, I can try. It
Well,
looks interesting, this though.
Yeah, I think I'm very curious to how it connects or doesn't connect, I should say, because there are certain things about the story of Elden Ring that make this potentially very interesting or potentially very confusing.
Yeah.
Even more so. And it kind of get the impression from the trailer that it has a lot of things in common with like battle royale games, and with the shrinking playing field, gliding around on the map, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like the gameplay it's here is very much in, especially the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion get style gameplay.
Yeah. Now, the next game to kind of talk about that I just wanted to... Sorry, give me one sec. Okay. I'm just going to share it to you, Joey, so you can see what I'm doing as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website.
YouTube?
Yeah, I'm looking at YouTube.
Ah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, like this was one that was very interesting from Epic Games, Untitled Gen Design game. And I think the whole trailer was well, after they get past the pesky credits, was just this imminent wave blast coming towards what I'm assuming is the protagonist, and they're climbing.
Just to let you know, on YouTube there is no video.
Oh, well, there's a video for me. In any case, that's what we're watching. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. They didn't show literally anything else about it, or there was no other real information about it. From my understanding, it's still very early in development, so who knows what this will end up being.
Well, so you've never played his previous work, have you?
What was his previous work?
Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian.
I have played Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay, so this is a Shadow of the Colossus reference, like him climbing up this giant mech thing. And the shadows in the distance, it could be a reference to something, could not be. I suspect it's not connected to those games at all. But the feel and the look is very much in line with his previous work.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll have to see what that is, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, seems odd just to fly the head. They waited to the last minute to do it. I suspect that's for, dramatic effect as opposed to practical effect, because you probably want to get higher up as soon as you can. But anyway.
Yeah. Actually, okay, before we move on to the next trailer, that I want to talk about, which is The Outer Worlds 2. I think one thing that I noticed from watching all these trailers, and mind you, it was like 4 hours of, obviously they did awards in between, but like 4 hours of game trailers and announcements and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of like fantasy looking RPGs coming, and they all looked the same to me from a trailer point of view.
Yeah.
Man, it's insane. Like the trailers are all built the same way, where they have like this dramatic music and a villain or protagonist giving like a speech about something that no one's really listening to, over the top of dramatic music going Durr! and then action of a generic looking monster, and then there's a CGI cutscene of the fight rather than the gameplay, and then you might get 2 or 3 seconds of the gameplay, and then the title fades in with soft piano music at the end of it, and I was just like, all right, this is another one of those
Well,
games.
as you know, we are in the year 2010. So we have a lot of, maybe in the future they'll come up with something new, but in the current time period, this is all fresh.
Yeah. I mean, the one trailer that, well, not just the one of the trailers that, what is this? That I really liked the look of was the Outer Worlds 2. Obviously, this is Obsidian's next entry in their franchise. And even in the trailer, they talk about the fact that they're going to include more of the stuff that should have been in the first game. Obviously, since they've released the first game, they've been bought out by Microsoft, which means that they have Microsoft money in behind them to be able to help development. So I'm hoping that they can go bigger and better within this game there. And they talk about all the sequels that they've made and the success that they've had within those sequels, which they definitely
They've all been better than the originals.
Yeah, right. And it looks really cool. I think the Outer Worlds was a really cool setting, and the first game I thought was pretty good. I think there definitely could have been more variety in like the weapon play and the gameplay mechanics, but you know, it had pretty solid writing for most of the game, I felt, at least. And there were some really cool like companion quests and a few other things. It didn't feel that great to play. You know, it didn't feel bad, but it wasn't like great gameplay. So if they can really improve on that, I think the world that they've already sort of established, some of the humor that exists within Obsidian, I think they can make a really, really good game here. So I'm really looking forward to, I mean, this is probably going to be on Game Pass, right? So
Almost certainly.
yeah. So if you have Game Pass, you're not going to need anything to play it. But I felt this was pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for it. Did you have any thoughts on it, Joey?
Yeah, I mostly agree with what you said. I would say my major issues with the Outer Worlds were less the combat. I mean, that was fine. Could have been better. But it was mostly that the setting was really underused. Like, there wasn't some... I mean, there was a lot of role-playing opportunities, which was great. But a lot of them... just it will feel very small, and not in like the Disco Elysium kind of way, but more in the like we're suggesting there are bigger things going on, but you don't really interact with those things.
Yeah. And if they could maybe make use of that setting a little bit more and go further with the world building, it can definitely be a lot more engaging. You can care a little bit more around like the places that you visit. Like I found in the first one that a lot of the towns and stuff, I don't really remember what they were individually, because for me they all just kind of looked the same and felt the same. So if they can maybe do something a little bit more distinct and get you to care a little bit more about the environment that you're in, I think that would be really cool.
I expect, based on the trailer, they're aware of that, and that's probably what they're going to do. There was a joke at the end was saying, like, even though we spent 3 times the time, it'll at least be twice the size.
Yeah, I really liked the approach that the trailer took, because it's just, I don't know, it's just something different. They still showed off the gameplay. They had like a catchy song in the background.
I mean, the trailers for the first Outer Worlds were also really good. And I think they did accurately capture what those games were. I think a lot of people expected it to be more like New Vegas, and which I think was the incorrect assumption to have.
I think that's what everyone really wants, is just a New Vegas 2, newer New Vegas, newer Vegas.
I mean, weirdly, the closest game that is, I would say, in thematic style to New Vegas was probably Wasteland 3, or Wasteland 2 even.
Gameplay was quite dramatically different.
Gameplay was different, but like in terms of setting and like how the faction stuff works and how you can manipulate the story, like Wasteland 3 does a really good job of getting that kind of feeling. And if you know what you're doing, you can finish that game very, very quickly.
Yep. Okay, another one that's coming is, we kind of already knew that beforehand, was Borderlands 4.
It's Borderlands.
It's funny because the video for this one says it's an official gameplay trailer, but I didn't feel that it was an official gameplay trailer. Joey, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's playing on YouTube, but No, I agree. It was very similar to the Borderlands 3 trailer, where it kind of gave you an impression, but also kind of didn't. Like the way the story in Borderlands 3 goes, you would not get that impression from the trailer for Borderlands 3. And I suspect there'll be something similar for Borderlands 4, where whatever the story is in this game, probably not exactly reflected in the trailer we're seeing. Although, as I mentioned to you earlier, the look of the art very much like closer to Borderlands 1 than Borderlands 3, and I was very surprised by that. And I don't know if that's just maybe my perception or maybe it was intentional or not. But like, there's some interesting like considerations about where the story could go then, because there are a lot of things in the first Borderlands were never resolved in any of the other Borderlands games.
Yeah.
And it does look like the Guardians for the Vaults and the Iridani tech, all that stuff seems to be a big factor here as opposed to the other games where they're kind of like a minor concern.
Yeah. Lots of maps in different areas shown off as well. There was that big war, as you said, between the Guardians and that kind of stuff. You know, you get a bit of a look at some of the new Vault Hunters, but it's not a gameplay. It's not a gameplay trailer. There's like a second of gameplay where there's like a vehicle they're driving and someone shoots a gun.
Well, so Zane was there, right? So in that trailer,
yeah.
So I'm thinking that the Vault Hunters here we see are the new guys, but we might also get the chance to play previous Vault Hunters too, especially based on a leaked image from a while ago.
Yeah, I think. Look, Borderlands' strength has never been its storytelling. I think the main thing, and I could talk a lot about Borderlands, but I think the main thing that people want, myself included, maybe I'm just speaking what I want, is a story that is just tolerable enough, that is not like annoying and frustrating. We don't have to talk to Lilith every 2 seconds. That you can maybe skip the dialogue if you've played the game before and you want to do a new run. That would be really, really nice. And another big change, I think, would be an easier way to farm rather than having to save quit and reload the game every time you want to try and kill an enemy. There needs to be a better solution, because you want to play with a friend and you want to go get some loot together. You can't really do that because, you know, you kill an enemy and you save quit. It ends your session, you have to relink back up, and then you have to join the game. It takes far too long. And, you know, I think from a gameplay point of view, they really need to move that stuff forward in the franchise and then just cut back the stuff that they tried to do in Borderlands 3 and, like, either tell a story and use humor subtly. And, like, I think Borderlands, from my impression of it, since the first and second game, I feel like they take themselves a lot more serious now. That's fine if that's the way they want to go, but if you're going to do that, like, do that and use humor to offset it. Don't try and make every single thing funny, you know, like, have a bit of balance to the storytelling, or go the other way and don't take anything seriously. But, you know, like, looking at the trailer and there's like a big war and all the rest of it, like, that looks for me like it's serious. So we'll see what they end up doing. But I know from the last few titles in the franchise, they haven't necessarily hit the mark for a lot of people. And then there was the movie that we don't need to talk about, but you and I went to go see it, and we chose that instead of the Deadpool movie. And boy, did we fuck up, Joey.
Sadly, yes. Although it gave us lots to talk about during the cinema, I guess. But I might slightly disagree with you on the story stuff for Borderlands. I would say that the problem was the focus on story in the first place.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Like Borderlands 1, very thin on story, but enough to get you going.
Yeah.
And the humor there was not a constant presence. It was there, but like it wasn't overbearing. You know my feelings on Borderlands 2. I like the game itself, but I despise Handsome Jack and everything associated with him, because I think he was such a stupidly cartoon villain that I couldn't take him seriously. And especially the whole little character motivation stuff, I just didn't buy. And again, but they fixed those things in the expansions. And similar thing to Borderlands 3, the main story, again, took itself too seriously. with the constant undercutting of very bad humor.
Yeah.
In our obviously subjective opinion. But the expansions for Borderlands 3, way better job. The Handsome Jackpot, I think, is probably the best DLC they've ever done.
Yeah. That was a good time.
Yeah, we played that co-op. That was a great time.
Yeah. It was quite good. But yeah, well, look, we'll wait and see what happens. Obviously, Gearbox has gone through quite a tumultuous period where they were acquired by the Embracer Group and then let go by the Embracer Group. We're lucky that they're still there and won't shut down. But
Yeah,
they've had a bit of a rough go. They got more games in the works that they announced a while back. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joey, but I feel like they
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a rumor, I don't think it was ever substantiated, that they might be working on a new Brothers in Arms, and I love those games, so I was really happy for another one of those. But
what was the last one for that on the PSP?
No, I think the 360 was the last one. Hell's Highway.
Okay.
It's been a long time, but I remember playing it. Really good time. I think I can't remember if it was the second one or the third one. The second one I think is my favorite, but all three of them good games.
Yeah. What would you like to talk about next?
There was one. It was by. I'm just trying to find the name. The one that was going to be written by the guys who do Tales from the Borderlands. That adventure kind of game where you're managing superhero rescue service kind of thing.
Yes, and there was Aaron Paul in it.
Apparently.
Yeah. Screamer, maybe? Was that it?
No, Screamer was that racing game, that anime-looking racing game, which also looks pretty good. Well, at least, again, based on CG, not on real details.
Yeah, that did look pretty good. Why is the ads? I have YouTube Premium. I don't understand. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What was it? Was it not Den of Wolves then? That was
That's that Payday-like game.
That's the one, yeah. Zenless Zone Zero, no. Sonic Racing. I mean, yeah, I'm excited for that.
I mean, Transforms is really good. The team racing was not good.
Maybe I didn't. Dispatch was it.
I think that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it because Aaron Paul worked in the Dispatch. Yeah, I just gotta skip this ad real quick and we can watch it, but it looks pretty interesting. I think like the Tales games needed a bit of what's the right word, innovation, right? In the genre.
I mean, Tales. You haven't played Tales from the Borderlands yet, have you?
I have. I've played.
You have? Okay.
I haven't finished it yet. I will finish it.
Okay. Well, I was going to say I think the Tales games did the best out of. Sorry, Tales from Borderlands did the best out of any of the Telltale games in terms of giving you more to do than just make choices that didn't mean anything. That's always been a problem with the Telltale games, that the choices you made didn't really matter. The story always went the one direction. And the Tales from the Borderlands, that kind of worked because the setting kind of lends itself to everything being a certain way. But in The Walking Dead, that didn't work at all, in my view, except for the first game. But that was only because it was the first game.
Yeah, and obviously they were doing an episodic approach, and at some point it gets so convoluted about what games are at, unless you're really following it closely, that I think people that are not necessarily looking at video games every second of the day like you and I are, those games get lost very quickly. So hopefully this is the complete game, which it looks like.
The episodic model has kind of really died off. In fact, I think by the time the second season of the Walking Dead series games came out, that was already gone. Most games were just either releasing everything at once or making it part of it for you pay for one and you get them all.
Yeah, and I think that's what it needs to be moving forward. I feel that people have a certain amount of attention for something and then they move on to a new game, unless the game has a a gameplay loop. But if you're playing something that's a heavy story game, for that, a lot of people probably just want to go from A to B, right? And get to the end of the story, move on to the next game, and then when a sequel comes out in a few years, that's a fully fledged game, they're ready to re-engage with it. But if you have something where you drip feed people something over the course of a year, and every 2 months there's a few hours of the game, people are going to forget, and you're then competing. Like, let's say there's 6 episodes in a year, you're competing 6 times with other game launches. So you can pick your spot better with just the one and get picked to play from A to B, I feel.
Yep, I agree. And also there's other factors too, like economic stability of the studios who make these games. If they're relying on people to come back and pay money, and that's how their business model is structured, unless they have things coming out all the time to supplement that, then they're just going to cause issue. That was one of the things that did Telltale in originally, was that they had an unsustainable business model. They were either working on too many projects or not enough projects, and they were releasing things too late or they're releasing them too quickly. They couldn't really win.
Do you feel like that was starting to happen to the Until Dawn studio? What are they called?
Ready at Dawn? No, not Ready at Dawn. No, that's the SOCOM guys.
You know what I'm talking about? The Man and Madame and
yeah, they recently did the remaster of
Until Dawn,
which was worse than the original.
I'm playing it now, actually, and I've never played the original, so I don't know.
Oh, you didn't play the original? Okay, to me it looks worse.
It's good.
Oh no, Until Dawn's great. I'm just saying, in terms of the art and the graphics, it kind of looks worse to me. Because they made a lot of things brighter. To the point it kind of removed a lot of the atmosphere. And then some of the details they added in, we could go on. We'll talk about that, but yeah, there are issues with that game that I didn't need to address.
It's a fun game to do commentary over because there's little things in that game, like when they walk. He's like, yeah, go to the cabin. It's like just down the road. And it takes like 20 minutes of like walking in the game to get there. I was like, where the fuck is this cabin? Like, why would anyone agree to go through a mine shaft up this big scary hill to go sit in a cabin when that house was infinitely big enough for all of them to stay there? And I get that they needed to split them off from a narrative point of view. It was just really.
That's the whole
really
point of that game. It is horror the game.
Yes, yes, it is. There's a lot of
horror tropes the game.
And we love it.
Yeah, it's again. I liked. Well, we did a co-op playthroughs of some of their other games, and I really enjoyed those as well. But Until Dawn is kind of special.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking for a while. Anything else to cover? Did you want to talk about some of the awards or any of the other games that were shown that we quickly want to touch on? There was quite a lot else.
They had some good announcements, like the that Steel Hunters game, which is sort of like like Transformers meets Titanfall meets Monster Hunter kind of thing. That's a weird impression for that. It's probably a free-to-play garbage, but you never know. Could be good. Project Sentry, the other game by the Like a Dragon studio. It's in one of my favorite periods, early 20th century, so that could be very interesting.
Yeah.
That Turok game, there's a new Turok?
Yes.
Like, holy crap!
What year is it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm glad. Oh, but actually, the other big one I wanted to mention earlier that I forgot, the Onimusha game. Like, they're bringing back Okami, and they're bringing back Onimusha. Holy crap! It's the early 2000s all over again.
What a time to be alive. I'm just showing the Turok Origins trailer. I thought it might have been like something Ark Survival, like an expansion from that at first look. But you called it straight away.
Yeah, part of the reason I knew it wasn't Ark is because the developer for Ark has been having some issues, so I didn't think they'd be showing anything.
Right, okay.
But the other reason I thought it was Turok is because I heard a rumor a year or so ago that a new Turok was being worked on. And this is the time to announce it, is the Game Awards. So I figured it's a good bet. And also, I recognized some of the weapons from the old Turok games. Although obviously they look a bit different with the modern graphics. But I'm very curious what they do with the story, because there are like all the Turok games basically have a different protagonist.
Hmm.
And this is supposed to be, if it's called Origins, either it's a prequel or it's like a distant sequel or something. So I'm very curious and where they take that. And if it looks like it probably is co-op,
Yeah.
which is the style of the time.
Yeah. We'll wait and see. I guess there'll be more, hopefully, relatively soon.
Yeah, I think for the awards themselves, I think for most part the right game won. Or if another game had won, it still would have been the right game. Like I think there was really, they'd really aside from the best adaptation, I think pretty much all the awards went to could not have gone wrong basically.
Yeah, and for people that weren't watching it and they're watching us talk about it instead for some ungodly reason, Astrobot won Game of the Year. It also won, was it Adventure Game of the Year?
Action Adventure.
Action Adventure Game of the Year. So it won 3 awards, and another one that I can't.
It also won Best Direction.
Best Direction. That's what it was. Yeah, fantastic game. Very much a love letter to PlayStation, and they even thanked like the different companies that contributed their IP and didn't really ask for anything in return. I think that's really nice to hear that from the industry they were, happy to throw their IP in there to be celebrated. I think that's really, really cool. You had Clive Roosevelt going to Tekken 8 like they did with Noctis. Except
Yep. So probably 2 broken, overpowered characters in a game that's not really designed for him.
Yeah. We'll see how that is. Tekken 8 won Best Fighting Game actually as well.
I do not agree with that decision. Actually, that you reminded me. Yeah, that's a decision I disagree with. But considering who votes for these things, that doesn't surprise me.
I quite like Tekken 8. I think it's a good game.
It's a good game, but like Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising is really good.
Yes, I haven't played that yet. I need to play that.
And Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection literally has some of the best arcade fighters ever made. So
Yeah.
it's I understand why. Again, more people have played Tekken than they've played the other games. So that's just how it goes.
Yeah. We had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth winning the music score award for Game Score.
Yeah, a fine choice.
Yeah, a fine choice. There was a few good nominations in there. Final Fantasy is always going to have good music.
Well, that's not always true, but usually true.
for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah, and Blatro won. Which one did Blatro win? They won
Best Indie.
They won, yeah, Best Indie. Yeah, it's a
They
game
also
that
won
I
another
played.
one.
I played
Best Debut.
Yes, I mean developed by one guy. I've played so much Blatro when I should be working. It's not funny. Or maybe it is funny. I don't know. But yeah,
They
great
also
game.
won Best Mobile Game. They're going against Pokemon.
Oh, that's right, because the Pokemon TCG is now on mobile.
Yep.
But so is Blatro. And so it's actually, there's a few really good indie games now on mobile, and there's definitely some trash ones. One of them that looks, in my humble opinion, to not be very good is the Squid Games game from Netflix that's upcoming.
I mean, that's just looks like a cash in to me.
For sure, because I think even the art style, looking at it, really doesn't capture, like, in my opinion, the feeling of Squid Games. And let me be frank, I've not watched the whole season of Squid Games, so I could be wrong on that. But from what I know of it, from what I've seen, meh.
I mean, yeah, Squid Game is. I mean, it's not an original concept, but they did it relatively well. They executed it relatively well for the TV show. But the cashing in with the zeitgeist has always been a thing with video games. Like, that's why movie games are a thing.
I mean, yes, but also why Pepsi Man exists.
I mean, Pepsi Man, I think, probably contributed more to society than any other video game.
Yeah.
Just for the theme song alone. I mean, it's just, it sticks in your head, doesn't go away. It keeps you centered.
The speedruns for that are pretty great.
Yeah. The game's done quick where they had the guy from Pepsi Man with them there was great.
Did they really? I didn't see that.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I might be conflating it with the Angry Video Game Nerd version. I always get confused with these things, but I think it was a Games Done Quick. They had the Pepsi Man guy like on a phone call or something
It
with them
sounds,
watching him speed run.
yeah, it sounds like something that they would have there, which is pretty cool. Overall, oh, sorry, you
Sorry,
go.
go on.
No, I was just gonna say overall, I felt like it was a good showcase. A few big omissions, or not omissions, rather. I guess nothing's necessarily omitted, but I think a few things that people were hoping to see that they didn't get to. That's always the way, though. You know, with these sorts of things, that's more to say with people's expectations rather than like the video games industry. But you know, I was watching the chat a little bit until I turned it off during the thing, and I know that a lot of people were talking about GTA 6, but I think that's more just because it's a meme now at this point, that it's been quite some time since the last one, and people are hoping to see a little bit more, but I don't think they would necessarily will until, you know, probably.
It's only a few months away.
Yeah.
I think doesn't really need the marketing for it, honestly.
As soon as they just feel like it exists and it's coming, yeah, people will shut up and take my money pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean again, I think people forget the GTA 5 sold really well, but not because a lot of people bought it. It's because the same people bought it multiple times,
Yeah.
so they could get the shortcuts. So it's one of those things where that a lot of people are still interested and excited for it, but it's not necessarily a it'll sell well. There's no guarantee. There's no,
well, yes, yeah,
but it's regardless of quality is what I mean. So it doesn't really matter because people will buy it just because they liked Grand Theft Auto 5. Really, the real question is, will they buy Grand Theft Auto 7? If there is one.
Well, we'll be waiting a while, it would seem.
Yeah, when I'm retired, probably.
Kingdom Hearts 4. Some people, including myself, were hoping to see maybe something with that, but completely understand that there isn't. Yeah, it is. And look, Square Enix don't do things in a timely manner, so
well, that's part of the problem, right? I mean,
yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 took so long, and you know, you and I do not have a high opinion of that game.
Yeah,
a lot of it
got weighed down dramatically in the wrong parts, and then they skipped over probably
all the interesting parts.
Some of the interesting stuff, yeah, that they could have explored a lot more rather than filling it with the most boring MMO style. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time. But yes, God, I was disappointed with that game for sure.
Yeah, but Kingdom Hearts 4, though, I agree that it is something that would have been a perfect to show off here, but I think it's way too early based on what we've seen. There's no.
Oh, sorry, you go.
Oh yeah, for Kingdom Hearts specifically, for me, you and I are disappointed in 3, and 3 had a lot of expectations to live up to. So I suspect 4 will probably have a better footing to work from.
I feel like they might do like almost like a clean slate approach. For not quite, because there's obviously a lot of history.
I think Nomura said they're still continuing Sora's story, so
yeah, okay.
But they say it's going to be Sora's final story, or it's going to be something like that. I suspect that's not the case, but it'll probably have something climactic about it that's going to have a big change.
Yeah. Okay.
And then now everyone's a Keyblade master, they're going to have to do something different for Sora, because just being a Keyblade master means nothing now.
Those Kingdom Hearts in a nutshell videos, if you've never seen them, go look them up. They do a great job of summarizing that whole point.
The Diablo ones they did were really good as well.
Yeah. No Wolverine game that I thought they might show, only because it was announced with the PS5 announcement. So
yeah, but I mean, look how long it took them to get Spider-Man 2 out.
Yeah, but you know, don't show it. 4 years ago.
I mean, they showed Elder Scrolls 6, 6-7 years ago. Like
they showed a logo. They didn't show. I mean, I guess actually Wolverine was pretty much.
It was just a CG cutscene in a bar.
Yeah,
it was a nothing burger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, as we talked earlier, a lot of this stuff is just marketing. It's not necessarily to inform.
Even giving them an award for a game is considered marketing for the game. Like, Astrobot's going to have, I'm sure, a Game of the Year edition with Game of the Year written on it.
Oh yeah, probably,
You know,
and deservedly so, I think.
yeah, for sure. But you know, it's all. I mean, how many ads, like advertisements, were during the game show? Not just. I mean, everything was an ad, right? It's the whole thing. But
I think that's part of the thing we just have to deal with being an online
for sure,
award show.
that's
If it was terrestrial and like they could actually get commercial breaks for advertising and stuff, I suspect it would actually be worse.
yeah, yeah. Um, boy, Microsoft went hard with their advertising there, being like, "This is an Xbox, and this is an Xbox, and this is an Xbox, and that's a cat." And okay,
I mean, like I think they did cats dirty there. They are frequently more fun than Xboxes. Um, the Yeah, well, I mean, what else have they got to sell, right? I mean, they had what, one game announcement during the awards?
Hmm. They wheeled out Harrison Ford. That's a thing that happened.
Yep. Because octogenarians sell games.
Yeah, that was. And Snoop Dogg was there.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that.
But he was there, so you know, good for him. And the Muppets.
I mean, the
were
Muppets
there.
are always there, and then as I mentioned, I'm a large fan of the Muppets, so
Yeah.
any excuse to see Muppets,
They were.
I'm on board with.
They were pretty good.
If any complaints people have at the Game Awards, I will solely defend them specifically because their Muppets are there.
I feel like this year was better than last year's.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to mention actually. This year I felt like was actually more like an award show than last year.
Yeah.
Last year felt very disrespectful a lot of the time, at least as an audience member. Yeah, I really liked people actually got a chance to speak, and even in the pre-award show, that people got to speak as well, instead of just picking up the award. Yeah, I even though we were complaining about the length, I still think overall I definitely enjoyed this year more than last year.
Yeah, it definitely could have maybe used an intermission. But I
Yes.
liked the pacing in terms of game showcases, awards. I didn't feel any particular thing dragged on too much. Everything was in 2-3 minute segments, so it was pretty good. I would give it thumbs up, maybe even 1.5 thumbs up. Yep. Yeah, it was.
Give it my score, every score of C.
Yeah, it was a good time. Look, there's a lot of really cool games coming next year, I think, and probably 2026 as well. Some of those, but yeah, there's some good stuff in the pipeline. We'll wait and see.
Maybe money for February, everyone.
Yeah. Come shop at my store and buy all the stuff that you just saw when it's available for pre-order. Because, well, I got to order the stock as well. Nintendo Switch 2 obviously not shown. Makes sense. It's Christmas period. They're not going to show it 2 weeks before Christmas. Why would you show the next console 2 weeks before you try and sell this one at the busiest time of year? They're just not going to do it. So
I don't think we're seeing anything of the Switch 2 until this time next year. Honestly,
you don't think
we might
until
get something?
The end of the year? I think.
Oh, sorry. We'll see. Sorry, we'll see stuff beforehand. What I mean to say is, it won't be available for purchase till probably around September to November next year.
Yeah, I think that's probably what makes the most sense, because they're going to target the Christmas period. We'll wait and see, I suppose. I'm going to try and get stock because I don't know what chip shortages and stuff are like. I think that's part of the reason that there is a delay in the first place, is just production. So, I mean, we'll wait and see what Nintendo would look. I mean, Nintendo kind of do their own directs anyway, where they're going to announce that kind of stuff. They would never do it at something like this, I don't think. I think they would want the floor, in one of their own directs.
Oh, they have done Nintendo announcements at Game Awards before.
Maybe historically, but I think in the last couple of years with the success
even when they were doing directs, they had 2 of the Xenoblade announcements done at the Game Awards. I remember kind of freaking out when they showed that. But yeah, as you say, Switch 2, I think we'll be entering a kind of a new media cycle for that, like just around that, because the Microsoft, Sony got nothing aside from maybe their portable systems, and Microsoft said they're years away from that. Don't know about Sony. And Nintendo basically, and the Steam Deck isn't really doing anything new for at least another 2 years. So I suspect, Nintendo will have 2025 to itself, and they could do what they want, basically.
I don't know why it would take Microsoft so long to make a handheld device, because I mean, they already have Xbox on PC software. Like, I feel like they could just.
Well, you and I
They
both
could,
work for big companies. The bigger the company, the harder it is to get things done.
yeah, I know, but it just doesn't seem like, if the Asus ROG, and there's now Steam Deck and 50 million competitors since that's come out. I feel like Microsoft, being who they are within the computer space, surely.
Tablets or phones, right? I mean,
Yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ, man.
like really, if you think about it, in terms of hardware, the only successful product, and we use that term loosely all the time, that Microsoft has ever made is the Xbox.
You mean hardware wise?
Hardware wise, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Obviously, they're the kings. I mean, like,
Surface has done something. I would say the Surface Books and laptops, and
they are an insignificant part of the market. Like less than a 5%, I think. Like it's not even worth really mentioning. Like that they do have really.
I don't know. I think in the grand scheme of,
I'm not talking about their quality. I'm just talking about their impact on the market.
No, I mean more like if you look at how saturated the Windows market is, getting 5-6% share is pretty good. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, but that's software. But I'm talking about hardware. Like the hardware side of their business.
Yeah,
has always struggled. A lot of reasons why, and I don't know. We'll probably never know the full story about all of that stuff. But I suspect a lot of it has to do with the fact that the whole company has never really been behind it.
I guess their bread and butter is the breadwinner is the software, right? So
yeah, not just software, but services, server backends, that kind of stuff. Like technically that is hardware. I mean, in terms of consumer-facing hardware,
yeah.
That's like you saw their phones when they came out, the original ones. Like,
do you know what though? They actually
Nokia.
Okay. Nokia is another whole. I could talk for hours about what happened there, and Motorola too. But when the Microsoft phones came out, they were actually not too bad. Their biggest problem was the app ecosystem supporting it, and the hard part there was Microsoft had a closed rule for apps that were submitted to the Microsoft Store, like Apple did, right? They wanted the quality control and everything that was on there wanted to be tested. But the hard part was they didn't have a customer base, and developing for it was substantially different from developing from iPhone and Android. From iOS, there was software out there already that you could take your iOS app, punch it through the software, and you could have a version that worked on Android. It wasn't necessarily the best. If you obviously coded it specifically, it would have been very different. But it was easier for people to be able to co-develop, and there was a big enough market share that you were incentivized to do so. Microsoft just didn't have the market share, and it was harder to develop for. So developers didn't want to make software for it, and no one wanted to buy it because major apps weren't on it. But if you look at the actual core functionality of the operating system, it wasn't terrible. It definitely needed work, but for having a third option in the market that really could have competed with Android and iOS, it would have been really good to see them do something in that space. But I digress. That's.
I agree, but I think one thing you're forgetting about the actual Windows phone was how slow the interface was. It was glacial.
Yeah, they had the Windows 8.1 phone when they came out. They were fine. Everything before that was garbage.
8.1 ruined Windows as well. Like, sorry, the original 8, sorry, not 8.1. 8.1 was their attempt to fix Windows 8. But like Windows 8 was designed to be like a mobile interface, and that made using Windows a chore.
Yeah. Oh, so if you're wondering why I'm talking about telco, I have worked in telco for like over a decade, so I don't do it anymore. Obviously, I have my own business now, but that's why I'm talking about it. Anyway, moving on from that, I think that's going to wrap it up today. We're at an hour. So in risk of being like the Game Show Awards and going on far too long, I think we're going to wrap it up there. But lots of really cool things shown. It's a good award ceremony. Lots of stuff to look forward to. Yeah, it's not so bleak after all, huh?
Well, unless you work for a games company, I guess.
Or, if you any other part of our lives. Video games, but yeah. But yeah, thanks for joining me, Joey. And we'll be back hopefully soon with another one. I don't know when, but probably after Christmas we'll do our next one.
Little bit.
Bye, everyone.